the railroad from New York City to Miami runs right through Hampton County. And y'all have learned about jurisdiction. Well, federal jurisdiction, when somebody is from two different states, right? The way railroad law works, which you don't have to know this for a test, but the way railroad law works, you can be in Miami and a train can hit your car and kill your family, and the attorney can bring the torts lawsuit in Hampton County. And every railroad wreck in the last 50 years from New York to Miami has been tried in Hampton County because Hampton County juries gave tremendous amount of money. I had a friend who's a lawyer in Atlanta, and all he did were railroad cases. And if there was a railroad wreck somewhere, he and his partner would get in their plane and he would fly to that location and hand out his cars to everybody that got hurt, hoping to get a case, and they would sue the railroad, and they would sue the railroad in Hampton County. Well, the Murdaugh law firm would get $300,000, $500,000, $10 million in winning lawsuits. They would get all of this money. You know, so I may get, if I'm a lawyer and Emma's hurt in a train wreck, I get $10 million. I'm getting 30 to 40% of it, so I get $3 or $4 million, and then she gets the rest. Well, what the Murdaugh family started doing was putting it in Russell Laffitte's bank. And Emma would say, "Leon, where's my money?" And I would say, "Well, it hadn't come yet." Well, it had come, and I had put it into this bank. And when it's in this bank, I go take it out in my account. I go take whatever money I want out. And so they were doing that for years and years. And then Murdaugh's son got drunk and ran a boat into a bridge and killed a young woman. And the police came in investigating the boat wreck. And when they came in to investigate the boat wreck, the lawyers in the county said, "Well, by the way, we think there's some money missing from Mr. Murdaugh's law firm." So they started an investigation of the law firm, and they found out that Russell Laffitte, who was the banker and his best friend from childhood, the two of them had a scheme going where they would take the money from the lawsuits, put it in the bank, use it for themselves, and then somebody would come say, "Where's my money?" Well, they would then take money from the next lawsuit to pay them. It's called a Ponzi scheme. All right? Now, I want you to take 10 or 15 minutes, Google or whatever you use, Safari, Google Russell Laffitte, and read a couple of articles, because there are going to be probably 10 to 15 lawsuits about this, including the wreck that killed the girl. But the very first lawsuit started 2 days ago, and that was the trial of Russell Laffitte for bank fraud. And it is in federal court. Does anybody know why it's in federal court?
It's over $75,000.
Nope. Well, this is a criminal case, so the $75,000 wouldn't appear. Okay, that's only civil. This is something that I didn't know I was an adult. Have you ever seen when you go into the bank? Now everybody uses debit cards, but if you ever go into the bank or look at the front door of a bank, there'll be a little sticker, and it says FDIC. Okay? That says Federal Deposits Insured Corporation. When the banks, in 1929, when the banks failed and we had the Depression, the federal government said, we'll no longer ever have that happen. And the federal government says, if a bank runs out of money, the federal government will put the money back in so that the people who had accounts don't lose their money. So that's federal deposit insurance. And that's why it's a federal case. Because this means that anything that's got that on there, it's a federal bank. You have federal and state jurisdiction. In civil court, federal jurisdiction is like 2 or more states and more than 75,000. In criminal court, it's whether it's violated a criminal law. All right, bank fraud and the other 15 things he's charged with go to the federal courthouse. Okay. So instead of having a solicitor like you would in state court, you have a ADA, which is Assistant District Attorney for America. You have a grand jury. What did it say about the grand jury? What did the grand jury do? That's the first thing that happens. It's in secret, and the ADA takes evidence to the grand jury. 18 people, they meet in secret, and what do they say?
Guilty or not guilty?
Well, they don't say guilty. They aren't trying if we're guilty or not guilty. What specifically do they say? Huh? Nope. Nope. They say there is probable cause. None of this is on a test. I just want y'all to know this. It's probable cause for an arrest warrant. Okay, that's the Fifth Amendment. So even if the FBI, even if this is an FBI case, even if the FBI thinks that Russell Laffitte has stolen money from people that have put it in his bank, or that Murdaugh has stolen money from the bank on behalf of his law firm, they can't just walk in the bank and arrest him. They have to take the evidence that they have and they take it to a grand jury, and the grand jury says, oh yeah, there's enough here to arrest him. So they then, after they get the grand jury, they then do the arrest warrant. All right. Next thing happens is the Eighth Amendment, which is bail, and the Sixth Amendment, which is an attorney. Now, bail, remember I keep talking about the British soldiers. Back in the Revolutionary War, if you got arrested, you sat in jail for as long as they wanted to. They would have a trial at some point, you know, but there wasn't any time limit. And you couldn't get out on bail waiting on your trial. Well, the Eighth Amendment says that Americans are entitled to bail. You have a right to bail. They cannot keep you in jail while you are waiting for your trial unless two things exist. Two things, and that is a flight risk or danger to the community. Y'all read up on Russell Laffitte. Where is he?
Charleston.
I mean, where specifically is he? He's in jail. I mean, if you saw any pictures of him, he's in an orange jumpsuit. Right? Why did he not get bail?
Flight risk.
Flight risk. You know, the guy's a multimillionaire. He owns a bank. All right, if they arrest him and then let him go, he'll be in Venezuela tomorrow. So that he doesn't get bail because of the idea of a flight risk. Now, he gets an attorney, and the attorney in his case asked for a quick trial, which is an American right if you are charged with a crime. Why would the attorney want a quick trial for Russell Lafitte?
So they can't get everybody in?
Exactly. They don't want him sitting next to Murdaugh in the courtroom. They don't want him sitting next to everybody that works in the bank. They don't want him sitting next to a murderer. Right? They want him in the courtroom by himself, and they want him to be the first one there. Did any of you read what he's claiming?
Individual counsel-led criminal activity.
Say that again, Bobby.
Individual counsel alleged activity.
All right. Who is he alleging the activity? He's saying he didn't do anything wrong.
Murdaugh made him.
That's right. They want a quick trial because they are blaming Murdaugh. He says, I was just the banker. Murdaugh came in and he would deposit $500,000, and then he would come back the next week and he would deposit $1 million, and then he would come back the next week and he would take out $5 million, and all I was the banker. You know, we've been friends since childhood, but I didn't know where the money came from. The banker never knows where the money comes from. And Murdaugh's going to jail for life. I mean, he's charged with at least one murder, maybe two, maybe three, and stealing something like $40 million from his law partners and from clients. So they do not want Murdaugh sitting next to him, and they want to be the only person in the courtroom charged with a crime so they can blame it on somebody else. That is, and I have done this many times. That is called the empty chair defense. If you're representing the bad guy, when I represented a murder, which was about 100 of them, when I represented murderers, and I'm sitting right here, the jury's sitting over there, and I'm sitting right here, and there's a guy sitting right next to me in an orange jumpsuit that looks like the worst person you've ever met in your life. And I tell the jury, my client didn't do it. The guy that did it should be sitting in this chair. They hadn't arrested him yet. They got the wrong guy. So you blame it on the empty chair. And that is exactly what they're doing in this case. Now, if he goes free, does it affect the Murdaugh case? No, because Lafitte's not charged with stealing money from clients. He's charged with just stealing money from the bank and giving it to Murdaugh. So if he goes free, they'll still go after Murdaugh. If he's found guilty, what happens to the Murdaugh case?
Well, it makes it worse.
Assuming that he's guilty.
Well, here's what happens. If Lafitte's found guilty, then Murdaugh, who has 3 murders, bank fraud, about 15 of them. If he's found guilty, then these are going to be guilty for Murdaugh. And the only thing Murdaugh's got to worry about is whether or not he gets the death penalty or whether or not he goes to jail for life without parole. Now, I give you this. It's really not even a 210 class. This is just information that I want you to know what's going on right now in South Carolina, but I want you to take it as an illustration of what happens in business. Okay? When you leave this class, you're going to be taking accounting, you're going to be taking economics, you're going to be taking small business management, right? And accounting, everything that went on right here was accounting. Everything in it. When you take accounting, I don't know if your accounting professor will tell you, but accounting is like management. Remember me telling you that management is an art? Okay, it's not a science. That managing people is an art form. You can't say it's a science. Well, accounting, believe it or not, is an art. They can move those numbers and they can move them from one book to another book, and they can. That's why you have forensic accountants. Good accountants can hide money, and you'll never find it. And that's what Lafitte's being charged with doing, is hiding money. So the Lafitte case affects the Murdaugh case, and Murdaugh's been on 60 Minutes, he's been on Discovery Channel, you know, you can pull up anything, you know, they're going to do a movie about it, you know, I mean, the Murdaugh is a big deal. But the bank fraud is kind of the key to the Murdaugh case. Because if Lafitte loses, then Murdaugh is out of luck with all the money charges.